Module 6, the flood to Abraham, God's justice, mercy, and rescue. All right, so Module 5, we covered all the way up from Adam up to Noah. So we got up to Noah in Module 5, and some of the things that we covered in that module, we talked about sin at first, right? How sin has changed everything for mankind. It's changed our relationship with God. It's changed our relationship with the creation, to each other, and our individual souls. And then we went through what we call the prehistorical period of Genesis, and that's chapters 4 through 11. Didn't finish chapter 11. We're going to get more into that in this module. But we talked about Cain, Abel, and Seth, and we talked about the importance of genealogies and how amazing some of the stuff is that we find in genealogies, especially Genesis 5. We spent some time talking about the days of Noah and how that was a really important era to understand as far as the purpose and the meaning behind the flood. And then we talked about how God rescued Noah and his family as an act both of grace and an act of preservation. And so what we're going to do now is we want to go, we got right up to the flood, but we didn't talk about it. So in Module 6, we want to talk about from the flood all the way up to Abraham, really taking a look at God's justice, mercy, and rescue. And so I mentioned this verse in the previous module where Jesus says in Matthew 24:37, "But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be." Which I quoted this very interesting verse. So Jesus likens his return to, there's going to be similarities between the days of Noah and the days of the coming of the Son of Man. Jesus is talking about the future. But to look at the whole context, I wanted to go read the whole passage. So the verse before it, verse 36, Jesus says, "But of that day," speaking of his coming, "an hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating, drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away. And also will the coming of the Son of Man be." So there's a lot in that passage. We could spend a whole module just talking about that verse. But I think Jesus' main point is that people were not prepared for the flood. They were going on with life as usual, and then when the flood came, it caught them totally off guard because they wouldn't have been eating and drinking and making merry if they had known what was coming. So Jesus is talking about how in the days of Noah, people weren't prepared. But the question is, does that mean that they were not warned? And so what I want to do in the next unit, I want to look at the warnings of judgment in the days before the flood.